Hello, hello. It's time for our 10th mini series, mini webinar, mini seminar. And today the focus is about the language of yoga. So it's not about Sanskrit and learning the Sanskrit words. I don't mean that by language. What I mean is the words that we use as teachers and instructors matter. The way that we communicate with our students matters. And there's a few key components that help to really communicate what you want for your students. Now, yes, you want your students to succeed on their mat and get into postures and be safe and avoid injury. You want all of those things, of course. But if you think of yoga as a practice of self-love and as a path or a journey to discover a deeper part of the self, then the words you choose want to reflect that. The words you choose want to cultivate that connection to that deeper part of the self. You want to come from a heart-centered space, from a present space. And the words you use while you're in class matter. So this is another reason why the formulas are so important, because the formulas are neutral. The formulas aren't charged with emotional interpretation. The formulas keep the body and the mind on that straight, linear, logical track. But there are times in class that we use other words. So it's said that there's really only, and this, okay, I'm just like truth bomb here. This is how you speak to yourself as well. So that's where it has to start. The way that you speak to yourself. So if you're very critical of yourself, see if you can start to shift your way away from that. Shifting yourself into acceptance. Shifting yourself into encouragement. Imagine that when you speak to yourself, you're speaking to your 5-year-old self. How would you speak to your 5-year-old self? If you were 5 and you were doing a yoga pose and you fell, what would you say to your 5-year-old self? Honey, that's okay. Get up and try again. Or are you all right? Check in, and then you would keep going. You wouldn't sit and criticize your 5-year-old self. So why criticize who you are today? Because there really is no separation between that you and this you. I'm going to get a little deep here for a moment. I believe that we are all spirits here on a human experience. And our bodies are our containers. And that's why through our yoga practice, we can discover more about our container. But ultimately, we know that we are more than that. We are more than our body. We are more than our thoughts. And we are even more than our feelings. Now you decide what that means to you. But to me, I imagine this light, a spirit, a soul inside of me. And when I address that part of myself, you can hear the tone in my voice change. I'm gentle, I'm nurturing, I'm encouraging, I'm loving. That's how I speak to that inner space. And when you speak to your students, that is where you're communicating to. Yes, bend into your front knee. Yes, lift your hands over your head. Absolutely. But you're also speaking to that deeper space within. So, choosing words that are encouraging, that are empowering, that are clarifying, thought-provoking. Not choosing words that are judgmental, that are critical. Even words like don't and no don't need to come into your practice. You can find other ways to say it where you're not so don't, no, can't, won't, shouldn't. Throw all of that away. Find other ways. Find other ways and start with inside. So how you can do that, how you can identify kind of where you are is if you really simplify things, there's love and there's fear. And everything trickles down from love and fear. This is a concept, an idea, philosophy. So when you simplify things of just black and white and start to categorize the words that you're using as black or white. So when you say, don't roll your shoulders forward, black or white, where does that, what does that make you feel inside? Is that uplifting and encouraging? Open through your chest. Now you're reaching the exact same outcome by saying, don't roll your shoulders forward and open through your chest. You're just saying it. You're choosing a language that is different. Open through your chest is coming from love. Don't roll your shoulders forward is coming from fear. So if you, let's look at a few. So if you want to speak to forgiveness, transformation, consciousness, peacemaking, laughter, persuasion, grace, compassion, happiness. So those would all fall under, and those are all great themes too. And that theme can help you to really create clarity on the wording that you're using throughout your class. Now, if you look on the other side, and you're looking at boredom, pain, antagonism, anger, judgment, guilt, shame, victimization, unconsciousness, hostility, sarcasm, aggression, betrayal, that's all falling into that dark, that fear, all underneath that fear language. So just getting really aware of not only how you are projecting and speaking to others, but even more clear on how you're speaking to yourself. There's a trick that I learned many years ago, and if you're wanting to kind of change your thought patterns, you can put an elastic, even a hair elastic, around your wrist. And each time you think a thought, a negative thought, you can just snap that, because it becomes a physical reminder of what you're doing, of what you're not wanting to do. And it raises your awareness. Now, I'm not saying to do that, but I'm saying there are different ways that you can become more aware of the thoughts that are in your mind, the words that are coming out of your mouth. There's another exercise, and it's stop, look, choose. So this helps us to slow down. And in regular situations in our life, if we stop, pause a moment, take a step back, we remove ourselves from reaction and we step into intentional action. So we look at the situation. We decide how we feel. We decide consciously, intentionally, how we want to react. And we choose our reaction. So we're not just in those automatic patterns. So those are a couple ways that you can become aware and change your own thoughts and your own actions in your life. And when you do that off of your mat, it's so much easier to speak to it on your mat. This is a teaching that is missed in so many yoga teaching courses. It's not something that's focused on. Now, another thing that you really want to do is speak to the moment using present words. So not referring to the past, not referring to the future, but referring to the right now. We spend enough of our time while we're off of our mats thinking about the future and thinking about the past. And this is why that dedication to the breath that's at the very beginning of your manual and how it talks that the lungs exist only in the present. They don't concern themselves with the past. They don't concern themselves with the future. That's the same thing with the breath. And that's why we cue to the breath, and that's why it is so important. The breath anchors us into the present moment, into the living moment. So we're releasing our stress or anxiety of the past or the future, and we're here and now. And in this moment, we're able to consciously choose our feelings, our actions, our emotions. So when you think about being in the moment, that's where the freedom exists. That's where the unfolding exists, the aha moments. So using language to bring your students back to that present moment, back to the here and now, connecting them to their body, noticing where the breath expands and releases, bringing that awareness back to their breath. And then positive words, really wanting to think and focus on using positive words for your students as they go through class. So removing words like don't, couldn't, wouldn't, can't, isn't, won't, didn't, and starting to use words like would, could, can, will, do, and becoming hyper aware of what we're expressing in our class. So again, you want to use love words that are coming from love, speaking from your heart, and really genuinely caring, connecting for the people that are in your class. You want to use words that are in the moment, that draw your student and yourself into the present moment. And then positive reinforcement, positive words, encouragement, inspiration, choosing words that enliven the soul, the spirit, and the body. When we speak from our heart, students recognize our love for them, and thereby we empower our students to thrive on their yoga path. So now I want you to take your journal, and I want you to write down, and I want you to identify both. I want you to identify some positive words that you could use in class and negative words not to use in class. I want you to identify some phrases that bring you into, and your students into, the present moment. And make a list of words that are connected and identified to love, and words that are connected and identified to fear. And what you're doing, I'm not saying like totally wipe this from your vocabulary, because that is impossible. But what you can do is increase your awareness to the words that you're using. And it is through awareness that we make real change. Thank you so much for being here. I hope that you find this information helpful and useful on and off your mat, teaching and as a student of life and love. See you again soon. Bye-bye.